American election campaigns now operate on a scale unimaginable just a few decades ago. We are talking about billions of dollars flowing into our political system. In 1990, a winning House candidate spent around $400,000. By 2022, that figure swelled to nearly $2.8 million. For the Senate, the average winning campaign went from $3.87 million to over $26 million in that same period. The 2020 federal elections alone saw nearly $14 billion spent, more than double the cost of the 2016 election. This dramatic increase raises fundamental questions about who holds the power and who gets heard. To truly understand this landscape, we must grasp a few core terms. Hard money means regulated contributions, with federal limits on how much an individual or political action committee can give directly to a candidate or party. Soft money, on the other hand, is spending not tied to advocating for a specific candidate, but rather for broader party-building activities like voter registration. Crucially, soft money traditionally faced no federal contribution limits. Then there is dark money, a term for spending to influence elections, where the source of the funds remains undisclosed to voters. This anonymity shrouds powerful financial interests. The modern era of campaign finance finds its roots in a landmark 2010 Supreme Court decision, Citizens United versus the FEC. This ruling struck down prohibitions on independent political spending by corporations and labor unions, arguing these restrictions violated First Amendment free speech protections. The court asserted there is no such thing as too much speech, and the government cannot suppress political expression based on the speaker's identity. Justice Kennedy, writing for the majority, reasoned that limiting a corporation's spending is unconstitutional because it limits its members' ability to speak on political issues. 2 months later, the SpeechNow.org versus the FEC decision reinforced this by holding that contributions to groups making only independent expenditures could not be limited. These twin rulings unleashed what we now know as Super PSES independent expenditure-only committees that can raise and spend unlimited amounts of money, so long as they do not coordinate with campaigns. The impact of these decisions is staggering. Critics, including the Brennan Center for Justice, contend that big money now dominates United States political campaigns to an unprecedented degree, effectively drowning out the voices of ordinary Americans. We see this dominance reflected in the source of funds. In the summer of 2015, for instance, fewer than 400 superwealthy families accounted for nearly half of all publicly disclosed presidential campaign financing. Fast forward to December 2024, and the Washington Post reported Elon Musk donated $277 million to Trump and allied Republicans, making him the single largest individual political donor since at least 2010. This concentration of wealth, critics argue, gives powerful individuals leverage to reshape the economy in their favor, prioritizing lower taxes and smaller government over public services like policing or environmental protection, which they may feel less need for personally. The debate surrounding this system is sharp. Proponents of unlimited spending, often conservatives, argue that legal restrictions on money in politics unjustly restrict free speech. They maintain that there might even be too little money spent on campaigns, not too much, given the size and power of government. They view campaign finance reform as an unconstitutional limit on citizens' freedom of speech and association. They compare spending limits to government censorship. However, opponents counter that this system leads to corruption, erodes public trust, and decreases civic engagement. They argue that large contributions buy access and influence, even if not in the form of overt bribery, creating a system where politicians are more available to big donors and industries, funnel money to committees that oversee them. One study even found that every dollar invested in corporate campaign contributions is worth $6.65 in lower state corporate taxes. While Super PSES must legally disclose their donors, loopholes exist. Some groups use tax-exempt 501c4 social welfare organizations, which are not required to disclose their donors publicly, to funnel money. This creates what is known as dark money funds, whose original source remains hidden. In the 2020 election, over $1 billion in dark money circulated at the federal level. Additionally, pop-up Super PSES can form within 20 days of an election, filing their first disclosure reports only after votes are cast. This means voters often remain unaware of who is funding these last-minute efforts until it is too late. This lack of transparency, critics argue, prevents the public from truly knowing who is trying to influence them. In response to these developments, various solutions and reforms have emerged. Public financing, particularly matching small donations with public funds, aims to incentivize candidates to seek broader support rather than relying on a few wealthy donors. Proposed legislative changes, like the Disclose Act, seek to mandate full disclosure for all political spending, including online advertising and anonymous sources. Reformers also push to close fundraising loopholes for candidates who appear prominently for independent Super PACs, and to strengthen the Federal Election Commission, which often deadlocks on enforcement matters. However, these proposals face strong opposition from those who champion unlimited political spending as a fundamental free speech right, illustrating the deep ideological divide in this ongoing debate over money's role in American politics.